I were to ask everyone here what makes them human, collectively would compile lists ranging from experience to function. Rarely would anyone detail the symbiotic relationship that they have with the organisms that we host. Although many do recognize that there are microorganisms present on and within the human body, many fail to understand the complexity in which they work. I've been consciously aware of the relationship forged between man and intestinal flora. After I inform you today, you too will see the remarkable effect of intestinal flora as on the human body and the human experience as we see it. There's a unique and profound symbiotic relationship of intestinal flora to its human host. In the human microbiome alone, there are over 100 trillion organisms, most of which in the intestines. Microorganisms in the intestines outnumber human cells 2 to 1. Humans offer intestinal flora a vast and dynamic environment. This environment is solely contingent upon exogenous pathogenic microorganisms in the human diet. Each person has intestinal flora unique to their own body, and just like in humans only shorter lifespans, a person's intestinal flora changes generationally to fit its host. Although the relationship of intestinal flora is mostly mutually symbiotic, it can in some instances turn pathogenic. Now I've told you about the symbiosis of intestinal flora to their human host, we'll now see the systems in the human body that intestinal flora affect directly. The role of intestinal flora on the human immune response is a complex one. As is widely accepted, most of the human immune response is various leukocytes like white blood cells responding to internal bodily stimuli. Intestinal flora account for nearly 70% of the human immune response. Upon recognition of an exogenous pathogen, intestinal flora release microcins, which are antimicrobial secretions to destroy said pathogen. Most intestinal flora survive and help maintain a highly acidic environment, which also precludes the formation of many pathogens. Some organisms release lipoxins, which serve as an immunoregulatory component to mitigate and prevent inflammation as well. Most microorganisms in the intestinal flora have toll-like receptors that also help aid and repair host cells. Although there are seemingly infinite avenues that intestinal flora affect the human immune response, let's see how digestion is affected by these organisms. There's a pivotal role intestinal flora play on human digestion. As mentioned earlier, that intestinal flora help maintain and live in a highly acidic environment, which is for how most energy is created. A classification of prokaryotic organisms is obligate anaerobes, which live in an environment devoid of oxygen. Fermentation and anaerobic glycolysis are two metabolic pathways in which intestinal flora create energy through digestion. Intestinal flora help metabolize carbohydrates to produce short-chain fatty acids. Short-chain fatty acids like acetic acid, which are used by skeletal muscle in the liver to produce ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. Most vitamins like vitamin B that are essential to normal human function are synthesized by the intestinal flora. I find the most important factor is that intestinal flora's ability to help with absorption of water. Digestion can be a rather obvious area in which intestinal flora may help in, but next is by far the most strange facet of intestinal flora's interaction with humans: neurological effects. There's a strange and unperceived effect intestinal flora have on humans neurologically. For obvious reasons, intestinal flora creates energy which has performance on the brain. Conclusive research has found that increased levels of stress and emotional turmoil can manifest itself in gastrointestinal issues, which is directly affected by the output of intestinal flora. The 10th cranial nerve, the vagus nerve, serves as a direct connection from the intestinal flora in the gastrointestinal system to the brain. The environment that intestinal flora generate and their various signaling mechanisms are even said to alter the mood of its host, but ultimately the personality as a whole. Foods high in probiotics are said to greatly affect a person's cognitive function as well as their mood. In conclusion, it's necessary to examine the effects of intestinal flora on the human body. Today, we have learned that intestinal flora have a close symbiotic relationship with its human host as it aids in its immune response, helps digestion, and even helps humans on a neurological level. Hopefully with this information at hand, everyone here can see that how you treat those microorganisms that you serve as hosts profoundly affects you as a person.